Okay, so another Crofty Reviews demo of the Electro Harmonix Germanium Overdrive. This is a classic 60s style overdrive featuring the germanium transistor that was popular in many overdrive pedals over the years. Alongside the more standard gain control, which obviously controls the amount of gain the pedal is pushing into the front of your amplifier, we also have a bias and a voltage control. The bias control controls the attack of the pedal and the germanium transistor that is inside of it, and the voltage control controls just how much voltage is being pulled from the battery or power supply and passed into the pedal. This is a fairly unique feature to this overdrive pedal, and I haven't heard of many others that do this, but the idea is to replicate the sound of a battery dying. People like Willie Johnson, who used to play for Howling Wolf in the late 50s, would often use low voltage or weakened batteries to power their pedals. This pedal is part of, I believe it's called the Electro Harmonix XO size pedal, which is slightly bigger than the standard sized Boss pedal in width, but is shorter, as in not as tall, but the same length overall. So it doesn't take up a huge amount of pedal board space. And my orange Micro Terra again is set for a fairly crunchy distortion, with the gain and time both at 12 o'clock and the volume way down at about 7 o'clock. To give you an idea of how the amplifier is sounding without the overdrive pedal engaged, I'm just going to run through a very simple palm muted chord progression just to show you how much crunch is coming out of it and how it will react when I hit it more before the pedal is switched on as well. As you can see, it's just past breaking point, but still with a nice level of clarity to the guitar. Now, with the overdrive switched on, everything's set at 12 o'clock, you can hear the amplifier start to buzz a little bit more. Play the same chord progression again for you so you can see how everything's reacting with, I don't know, a couple of extra decibels worth of gain. As you can hear, there's that little bit of extra push coming out of the amplifier, which, for anyone using a single channel amplifier, this pedal would work really nicely as a little bit of a lead boost, or just that extra push to take it over the edge. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the bias control right up to the top end and then back down again to the very bottom so you can see how this changes the overall sound of everything. This is the germanium transistor at work, and the bias is pushing all of the signal straight through that transistor and changing how everything sounds straight away. Now looking at it again at the very lowest setting, you get almost no germanium coming through and just the straight signal with the extra gain. So all that's coming through there is the extra push from the gain, and the further you take the gain at these different settings is more of an increase to the noticeable effect. So with full gain and full bias, you hear so purely from that, it's starting to fuzz up a lot more. It's kind of like a diet fuzz in that it's got all of the flavours that you'd expect from a fuzz pedal, with quite a lot less of the growl and the snarl. It's more of a Jack Russell to a Fuzz's Rottweiler. So what I'm going to do now is pull the gain back to the centre, the bias back to the centre, and take the voltage right up to the top. So you can hear the sound of everything with the full voltage from the power supply coming through. So with all the extra voltage that comes off of the pedal now, you can hear a lot more clarity from when the bias was increased to the full and the gain was increased to the full. It sounds more like a transparent overdrive than it does tone changing overdrive. So doing the exact opposite, taking the voltage right down, you'll hear a slightly strange sound, but still probably very useful in any number of circumstances. It sort of removes all of the gain from the gain control itself with everything set at 12 o'clock. I can think of places I'd use it in a recording setup, but in a live position I'd probably have to run it after or in front of something else. Personally, I think it could go quite nicely with a phaser behind it to create sort of a garagey phaser kind of sound, or possibly a little bit of a reverb pedal with quite a long sound and quite a long decay to it, so you get sort of an old school one microphone sound recording like they'd use with bands in the 50s. Now, with the voltage at about 9 o'clock, the bias at about 2 o'clock, and the gain dimed, you get a pretty cool sound. You can hear the amplifier really gunning for it now as it's pushing the front of it quite severely. Honestly, it sounds so cool. I like that sound. To me that sounds sort of crunchy and a little bit dirty. Like, you could imagine this being a good approach to getting that AC/DC sort of not distorted but angry, growly, beer-soaked rock and roll tone. It works really well with a blues 12-bar style shuffle thing going on, so a little bit ZZ Top in there. So as you can hear, that adds quite a lot of bite and snarl to your sound, and personally I really enjoy this pedal. I find it to be quite novel in the weird little sounds that you can get out of it. For example, if you take the volts, drop them to about 9 o'clock, the bias to about 3 o'clock, take the gain right down, you get this almost sort of broken sound out of things. I like that. I think that sounds fairly unique. I mean, I can't think of another pedal that I've used that I could pull that sort of sound out of. Whereas, and if you continue and take the bias and the volts even further, it sort of starts to make everything a little bit more crackly. But if you take the gain and pull that back up again, it sounds, like I said, broken, like the amplifier's on its very last legs. And you can use this to create some just cool intros. It's got that sort of lo-fi, pushing the radio slightly too hard sort of effect that is, it seems to be somewhat sought after these days. So to round up this effects pedal demo, I'm going to use another one of my old songs like I did in the Super Chorus video. The link to that will be somewhere at the bottom of the screen round about now. And yeah, have a listen, see what you think. This has been the Crofty Reviews demo of the Electro Harmonix Germanium OD.